Hi there, this is Sean, the Honest Book Reviewer, with another book review. In this video, we're discussing Death of a Prankster, written by MC Beaton. It's book 7 in the Hamish Macbeth mystery series. It is a cozy mystery. I did find this a bit disappointing, and I didn't like the fact that it was the second novel in a row that took Hamish away from his home village. I prefer his novels at his home village. But this was a little bit of a disappointing read for me, and it wasn't as strong as the other 6 books in the series. So we start off this book with an elderly man called Andrew Trent inviting members of his family to his home. He invites them to his home saying that he's dying, and he wants them all to attend. They don't really like him. He is a bit of a prankster, but he plays cruel pranks on people all the time, and he thinks they're funny, but so many people don't like him. From his family and from people in the villages near him, so many people just don't like this man, Andrew Trent. Anyway, the family members do go to visit him. They're not going because they like him. They're going because if he's dying, they want to see what they're getting from the will, because Andrew Trent is very wealthy. When they get there, we find that 1. Andrew Trent isn't dying. He was lying. 2. He's playing practical jokes on them almost straight away. And 3, the family members don't really like each other. They snipe at each other all the time. They don't get along. And they're just not a very nice bunch. So for characters in this novel that we see a lot of, so in this novel, the main focus is on these characters, not on Hamish or other people in the village, of course, because the action is outside the village. We don't have many nice characters to engage with in this book. There's one person in particular in this book that is not a member of the family, but is invited along by one of the members of the family, and this person's name is Melissa. And we see a lot of the action in the house through her eyes, so it's a different perspective. She's an okay character, actually. She's not the best character that MC Beaton's ever written, but she's an okay character, and to see things through her eyes is a little bit different, and she seems a bit more gentle than these family members in this book. So we need that balance, I think, in this book, to have this character who seems a little bit more sane, for want of a better word. Sure enough, Andrew Trent is found murdered. And when he's found murdered, it's done in an unusual way, almost comical way. And it feels like a bit of a farce, really. But I won't explain that, because if you want to read this book, you want to see that for yourself. But he is found murdered, and it could be anybody in the house being the killer. It could be anybody that works for Andrew Trent, because he has people working on the estate. And sometimes we suspect that it could be anybody in neighbouring villages, because he's played cruel pranks on people in villages as well. Hamish is called onto the scene because Hamish is filling in for somebody who's away in that beat, in that region. So he's called on to this murder, and also we have Blair and co joining the investigation as well. In this novel, the Blair-Hamish tension ramps up a little bit. It's not very extreme yet, but it does ramp up a few notches in this book, and we see Blair just not treating Hamish very well, and we see Hamish also trying to get one up on Blair. So the tension is both ways, and that's quite interesting to see, because often we think of Hamish being the innocent victim in that tension between them, but sometimes Hamish is the one who's causing it. What I like about this book is Priscilla plays a bigger role, so she's helping Hamish in his investigation. And I found that quite fascinating, because we don't know yet in the series whether they're going to become more than friends, and in this book there's hints that something's there underneath the surface, and we see a little bit of tension between them at times, a little bit friendship as well at times, maybe something more. There's hints there, but we just don't know yet. But from this book, it is suggestive that their friendship could develop into something more, something maybe romantic. Still, in spite of some of the good elements in this book, it's not one of my favourites so far in the series. And I just think if you're a casual Hamish Macbeth reader, you could skip this one and not bother. If you're a devotee of Hamish, you'll read this one, of course, and read them in order as they're intended. But for a casual reader, you don't need to read this to get a feel for the whole series. This is just doesn't feel core to the series, this novel. It feels like an add-on. That's how I think of it anyway. A lot of people think of this book as being akin to an Agatha Christie novel, and in some ways it is. That crime and investigation happening in a home, in a small setting. People being drawn at the end into one room, Hamish trying to unveil the culprit, the murderer. That feels like Agatha Christie, but it doesn't have that same finesse as an Agatha Christie novel, in my opinion. It feels too farcical. I'll mention two characters from the book. The first is Andrew Trent, who was the murder victim, and he's the practical joker in the story as well. He comes across as just very, very one-sided in this story. There's not much to him. He's cruel, he's rich, and he plays cruel pranks. That's all there is to him. There's no rounding of his character. There's no really developed history for him. It's all about his cruelty and his wealth and his practical jokes. Nothing else. So very one-dimensional and a little bit disappointing, because in other stories of MC Beaton in this series, the murder victim is a bit more well-rounded and you get more of a sense of that character. Melissa is the tag-along. So she's not in the family, but she's invited to come and stay. She's shocked. So you get a lot of different emotions with her. You get her shock at seeing what the family's like, how horrible they are to each other. You get her just revulsion of being around those people. You get her fear of Andrew Trent with his practical jokes. She's quite afraid of him, it seems. You get different emotions coming through Melissa in this book, and she's well crafted and well rounded and believable for the most part. But the thing about her that's not that believable is the fact that she's meant to be a scientist, and she doesn't seem to think like a scientist or act like a scientist. That's a bit strange as well. So even though her thoughts and her actions are consistent all through the novel, they're not consistent with somebody who's a scientist, and I found that a bit strange in this book. Death of a Prankster is by far not one of my favourite books in this series, and of course I think it's a book that a casual reader from Hamish Macbeth can just skip. It doesn't feel core to the series to me. I rate it a 3 out of 5. There are other books in this series that are much better than this one. So if you're a casual reader, you could probably skip it. If you're a devotee to Hamish, you will read it, because you'll probably read them all the way through in the order of the series. As I read each book of this series, I'll do a book review and post a video on my channel. If you don't want to miss out on those videos, check out my channel and subscribe. There's also a Hamish Macbeth playlist on my channel. It should be on your screen now.